Hey y'all, it's Christina. I am back with another video for y'all. So basically what happened was I was on my way back into the house after taking Marley for a walk, and I accidentally knocked into my coleus plant and broke off this huge stem. So I'm going to show y'all parts of the plant that are needed to know about so that you can propagate, and then I'll cut it up, and then we'll talk about different methods of propagation and go from there. So first things first is you got your cutting. Most people would end up cutting it, pruning, whatever, however you get your cutting. So make sure that when you cut, you're using clean shears, clean blade, whatever, however you cut it, make sure they're clean. So every time I use my scissors or shears, I just wipe it off with some rubbing alcohol before I make any cuts, because you can transfer fungi and bacteria and disease and all types of nasty stuff between your plants from your shears. So clean them off. Next up, I'm gonna show y'all some pieces of the plant. So obviously this main part is the stem. Off of each stem are some branches. So these are called petioles. This is how the leaf, which is this, is attached to the stem. The petiole also controls how the leaf shifts so that it can get more light. So if you are going to stake up a plant that likes to climb, you want to make sure that you do not stake up the petioles like this, because then the plant can't move, and then that leaf will end up dying because it can't shift to get light. Another part that you need to know is a node. So a node is where the petioles meet the stem. In between that is an internode. So inter means between. Latin stems, we learned them in 6th grade. So in between the nodes is an internode. It's just a space. So here we have a node, node, node. So in between at the internodes is where you're going to cut when you want to make propagations. So usually what people do is they will, it depends on how big you want your cuttings and that kind of thing. So really what you could do, honestly, I could take this whole thing and just cut off the bottom leaves and then have nothing here, and then stick that into soil. So nothing at the bottom, I could cut these leaves off, nothing down here, and then stick this into whatever I want to choose, water, soil, whatever, because coleus are rooting like geniuses. They go so fast it doesn't even matter what they're in. But basically you could do the whole thing. But what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to cut it up into pieces. So what you can do is I'm going to snip right here, and this will be a top cut. And what we'll do is we'll just cut the bottom 2 leaves off, just like that, and that's the first cutting. And I'll set this aside. Next, cut at the internode, not at the node, but close to the next one, so that way you have a good amount of stem. And but what they usually say is what you can do is you want 2 nodes and at least 1 leaf. Is that right? No, 1 node, 2 leaves, because the more leaves you have, the better chance they have of photosynthesizing. But anyway, so what you can do is cut. And that's your second cutting. Set it aside. Same thing. Cut. And then with this one, like I said, I'm just going to cut off the bottom set of leaves like that. I have a node and the leaves. So right here we've got a node. So the top cut, bottom, and then we have this little straggly mid cut, and then we've got this piece right here, which I'm gonna cut these little side leaves off because that's another node. So altogether we have 4 cuttings, so which is perfect because then I can kind of show you guys methods of propagation. So I'm going to put 1 in water, I'm going to put 1 in perlite, 1 in moist sphagnum moss, and then 1 directly into soil. Okay, so I'm going to get this. I'll use this one for the soil. Let's see. I'll use one of these clear ones for moss, and then for the perlite I'll actually be putting it into a glass jar, and then obviously water I'll put into a glass jar too. So come along. So I went inside, and because for some reason my soil is inside and instead of on my potting bench, but anyway, I grabbed some soil, and what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna put the top, no, I'll put this little piece in to the soil one because it's a pretty tiny pot, and I'm just going to kind of compress that down a little bit around it and make sure that the node that it's in the soil. It needs to be touching the soil. Next, let's do a perlite. Let's do the top cut in the perlite. All right, so I got a baby food jar. These are really, really great because you can see what's going on. So with water and perlite, I usually use glass jars, sometimes even with moss. Maybe I'll go and grab another one and use a glass jar with moss too. Instead of, I actually was going to do this one instead, but I think I'm going to do a glass one. Hold on. Alright, grabbed a couple more jars, and I almost want to cut some more off of the plant to do one in stratum, which is a new thing that I've recently started using when I am rooting cuttings or something that I'm having trouble rooting. I'll put it in moist stratum and then it will root. It's like magic. I don't know how to even explain it. Of course, baby's getting fussy. So okay, so let's do the next one. This is the top cutting, and we'll do this one in perlite, like I said. So I am outside, thank goodness, because perlite can be a little much when it's dry. Like, it is very dusty. So what I'm going to do is I am going to fill this up. I'm just going to shove the node down into the perlite, and then we'll water that in just a minute when we water everything. Let's get some moist moss. And I like to mix my moss with a little bit of perlite too. Let me grab some water. The hose is on. Silly me, the hose wasn't on. She's not happy. I didn't want her to be on my back for this video, but apparently everybody else is busy staring at screens. I'm staring at a screen too, so drama. So when you do your moss, you just want it to be like damp. You don't want it to be soaking wet. It shouldn't be like dripping or anything. So squeeze it out if you need. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna wrap it around the base of the plant and then put it into the glass jar. And you don't want it to be too tight around it. It still needs aeration around the roots. And then last but not least, just plain water. This is the bottom piece. And then we'll come back to those in a couple weeks. Okay, hey y'all. Alright, so I figured I would mix up some soil since I need soil soon anyway. Well, I want to show you guys what I use, and because I have everything that I need, I figured I would just show you guys a quick video on how I mix up my soil and what kind of ratios and that kind of thing I use. So I guess to start, maybe I should move some of this soil out of here. Most of my plants really like a chunky, aerated blend because they like oxygen around their roots, and so I try to make sure it's very fluffy and light. Chunky, because they like that. Okay, so now that I have some more space, let's get going. So first, so the first thing is like potting soil or compost. We do compost, but we don't have enough yet. We used a lot of it for our raised beds, so we're kind of just using other soils. So I try to find soil that doesn't have any fertilizer in it already, but that's kind of hard when you just shop around like at big box stores for your soil, so I just kind of get over it. But if I wanted to, another soil I've been wanting to try is Dela Tanks from Becca Dela Plants and Tanks Green Stuff out in Tucson, Arizona. I really like it because I feel like, well, from the looks of it, I haven't ever tried it, but I want to because it looks like basically what I would want and I wouldn't have to add anything to it. So I have all my stuff here of like all the stuff that I use. So I use potting soil first, and right now I'm just using this Miracle Grow. So this does have fertilizer already in it, and it says on the bag, so be very careful when you're buying potting soil to make sure that you read the bag, because it says plant nutrition feeds up to 3 months. So you don't need to fertilize your plant for 3 months after you use the soil. So You don't want to burn your roots and stuff. So I'm getting this little solo cup. I'll do 3 of these. And then, so far, potting soil or compost. And then I'll get some perlite. Perlite is really dusty. Do it either outside or wet it first, so that way it doesn't get up, the dust doesn't get in your face. But so a good bit of perlite, because like I said, my plants like aerated soil. So far, perlite and potting soil. And it's kind of like an even 50-50 right now. Then I'm gonna get, I might actually put another scoop of them. Just because it does look a little. Then we're gonna get some earthworm castings. These are from Green Thumb Gift Shop. It's up in North Carolina. It's a little home business. So I'm just gonna add a little bit for this video. Earthworm Castings is a nice gentle fertilizer that I like to add into every plant just as a basis. Got some orchid bark. This one is actually different than the one that I usually like. It's the same brand, but usually it doesn't have perlite and charcoal in it, so I was really surprised to see that. I'm glad. So I'll just put like a handful in because this stuff is really chunky. I actually wish that they would have made it a little less big, like that the bark pieces were smaller. And then my toughest find, I always am looking for vermiculite, but I can't ever find it. It also aerates the soil, but it kind of helps with the roots, and it does help retain a little bit of moisture. But yeah, I also like to add this, and I'll just add like a little scoop. That's what it looks like. And then you just mix it all. Like I said, be careful with the perlite because it is dusty. And then after you really mix it up, because perlite likes to hide down in like little chunks and pockets, after you mix it up really well, you can kind of see what you might want to add or change. So I might add even a couple more scoops of potting soil, just because I don't want it to be too too aerated. I mean, like, I still have a lot of perlite and bark and everything in this. You can still see that it's mostly, you know. But anyway, that's about what it will end up looking like when I want to use it on my plants. And I can add this back in. I'm actually thinking of repotting that milkweed over there, because it's gotten a little big. Okay, while we're here chatting about different substrates, I thought I would go inside and get a couple more. I am waiting for some more pon from the Green Thumb gift shop, the same place that I actually get my leca and my earthworm casting. So it's a little like I said, like family-owned business and up in North Carolina, and I really like supporting them. I mean, the prices are good and the shipping is included in the price. So you get, like, this is a 3-pound bag, and I think it was $16, which means it's cheaper than Amazon, and that's shipping included. And because they're not so far away from me, it gets here pretty quick. This is what the leca looks like. So it's clay pebbles, You want to rinse this before you use it to get some of that dust off, but it absorbs the water and kind of like works like through capillary action. I also get my pon from them. I'm waiting for another bag right now. But I think the pon is going to come in a bag that's like half the size, but it lasts a good while. So another substrate that I want to talk about that, like I said, is Fluval Stratum. I have not been using it for very long, but what I've seen, the results from when I've used it have been amazing. And so I want to kind of tell you guys about it, just so that way you guys know and you can start using it if it's something that sounds interesting to you. So it's actually meant for shrimp fish tanks and planting plants in water, like in hydroponic, but not like hydroponic. It's like literally submerged plants. Like this is supposed to be what the roots grow into in the water. So this bag was like 16 bucks, I think, on Amazon, and like I feel like the price just like goes back and forth between like $15 to $25, and there's like no rhyme or reason. But it's made from volcanic ash, and it basically is like magic. Roots grow so readily in it. They love it. I don't know why, but you keep it moist, just like in a semi-hydro type of setup. And basically what I found is you can mix it into your soil, you can mix it into perlite, you can mix it with your pon, really anything, and it will help your plant root. So if you're having trouble rooting something, try stratum before you just give up. It may turn it around and you might just have roots growing out of your ears. You won't know what to do with them because your plants are just going to love it. So I have a couple of different setups with some stratum, and like one is just perlite and stratum, and then I put water in it. It's in a glass jar. I have a lot of people though, they like to do like a reservoir, so a glass jar and then do stratum at the top and then a reservoir of like leca at the bottom, so then the leca stays wet just like how you would with pon and leca. What you can do is you use the leca as a reservoir and then only fill the water up to the top of the leca, and then the water will use capillary action and go up into the stratum, and you'll only water when the stratum at the top level is dry, and your plants will root into the stratum and then eventually into the leca, and you know. But I'll have to update y'all on a couple of my plants that have been in stratum since July 7th, and today is July 29th, so eventually I'll show y'all those updates. But I think that that's about it for now. It's a little toasty. If you can't tell, I'm sweating. It's like 100 degrees here. So anyway, love you. Hope y'all found this soil substrate video informative, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Have a good weekend.